Thank you for joining today's session. We will be getting started shortly. We do have a lot of folks signed up for today's session, and we want to give everyone a moment to log on and get connected so that we can dive into today's session. I do want to thank you all for joining us today. I am Jasmine Garrett here with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Today's session is an informational overview of the Activation, Revitalization, and Transformation ART Phase 2 program. A quick housekeeping note, we do suspect that many questions will be answered in today's presentation. However, you are able to write in questions at any point during the presentation using Zoom's Q&A feature. It is one of your Zoom command options and will allow us to make sure we are able to get back to you and let others see these questions and answers as well. Today's session is being recorded and will be posted on our NJEDA and YouTube pages. The slides and other resources will also be available in the next few days. Now to get us started with the presentation, I will shift things over to NJEDA's Senior Advisor of Arts and Culture, Barbara Rickard. Barbara?
Thank you, Jasmine. We are super excited to be at this point in the life of ART Phase 2. My colleague Matt Boyle and I will be presenting today. I'll be presenting most of the information, and Matt, I'm assuming most of you know, because I'm assuming that most of you have been in the info sessions with us to go over all of the basics of ART Phase 2, and that you come to this webinar today to review the application process, which is scheduled to tentatively launch on September 26th. That you're coming to this today to with real knowledge of the bones of the program. Matt, do you want to jump in here and introduce yourself?
Sure. I work with Barbara on mainly focused on the operations part, the application review. I'm director in community development and will be administering the ART program. So.
Thanks, Matt. A couple other things before we get started. One thing I want to say is that this PowerPoint this is being recorded. It will be posted on the ART Phase 2 website in the sidebar underneath the heading Informational Webinar. It will, so both the PowerPoint will be posted and a recording of today's session. So if there's information you don't get, if you can't take notes quickly enough, don't worry about it because all this information will be there. In addition to that, you can continue to send us specific questions about your programs, about what you're thinking, and we can talk to you a lot between now and when the program launches. Once it launches, we can only answer very specific questions that are about the technicalities of filling out the application and doing that process. One other thing I want to say is that on September 19th, and there'll be information about this at the end of the slideshow, we're having a last chance webinar, which is the actual full informational webinar that is being co-hosted or hosted really by the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. That's on September 19th from 2 to 3:30. That information and the link to register for that will be at the end of this slideshow. Plus you can go to their website and get that information. So if you need a review of the bones of the program, all of the pieces of it, understanding it, understanding the scoring criteria, come to that webinar again, because today's focus is really the application overview and going through the technicalities of that. So at the beginning of our slideshow here, we have just a quick overview, not overview, but review slides from our information webinar. This is what's in the slideshow already posted on our webpage. And if you've been in the info sessions, you've seen all of this information. Basic activities, eligibility criteria, where you can do the projects, how you can do the projects. Now we're going to go into more of the particularities of the application itself. as I said, the full PowerPoint for the info session is also already posted. So if you need to review any of the information, there's more than ample opportunity to do that. This is a really important document that's located on the sidebar of our web page. It's the applicant checklist. Use this to guide yourselves through the process of getting ready to do the application. Print this document out, use it as a cheat sheet so that you know that you have all of your, I can't take credit for this joke, so that you know that you have all of your docs in a row before you come to fill out the application online. In the blue section here at the top of the applicant checklist, everything in the blue section are the basic eligibility documents that you need. If you can't check off every one of these boxes, then you're not ready to go to the scoring phase, which is all of the information in the applicant checklist below the orange or pink or salmon colored box here that says scoring section. That section reviews the particular questions you're being asked and evaluated on. Use this document to guide you through getting ready for the process. I'm going to pause 1 second here so that Matt can address the notion or the idea of what it means for the for curing is what we call it. It's in this slide. If an applicant is missing any of the documents for eligibility, they will be provided 10 business days to submit document cures related to eligibility. So in case that's confusing, Matt's going to talk about that for a second.
Yeah, and just to refer to the checklist that Barbara was just referring to. The checklist is broken down into eligibility documentation and scoring documentation. So the process is the application closes, we review, EDA staff reviews the eligibility documentation. An applicant has to satisfy the eligibility documentation, which is the first half of the checklist items, in order to go to scoring. After the application closes, EDA staff will review those documents. If they're not sufficient, there will be what's called a 10-day cure period, in which EDA will send an email to the email in the application requesting additional information. If we don't receive sufficient documentation after the 10 business day what's called cure period, then the application could be declined or rejected. All applicants that do provide sufficient information then would move on to scoring. The scoring documents on the second half of the checklist are not no additional information will come in, or we will not request additional information for those. Those are the documents, you have to provide them at the time of application. There won't be any second bite of the apple for those. So.
Thanks, Matt. Okay. So use this document to ensure that you have all of your information ready and prepared before you start the online application process. You will have an opportunity to save your documentation, your application rather, along the way. You don't need to do it all in one swoop. If you do save, you have two different options. You can save and come back into it. You can also save and choose an option where it tells you, where it prompts or whatever, it allows you to put in your email address. So it sends you kind of a receipt that gives you the application link again, so that next time you go back in, it takes you to the page where you left off. So I'm going to go through these pages very quickly because it's super basic information and we need to spend the time where there's some more substance. So first page, language access. What's your language? This stuff is very straightforward, very self-explanatory. Eligibility, you have to put in where you're located so that we know that you're in that your project will take place in one of the locations that is eligible. This page is super important. Who is your primary point of contact for your application? Is it your executive director? Is it a consultant? Is it an authorized representative? Whoever that is, that's who you're putting here. If what you tell us is that it's an authorized representative, you need to give us the specific information about them. If you tell us that it's your chief executive officer, you're going to give us that specific information. And if it's a consultant, somebody you brought in from the outside, give us that information. But just going back, the arrow here points to email address for that person and phone number. Super important, because that's the box that we're going to go to if we have a question, and that's who we're going to contact. Applicant organization, again, very straightforward. Give us all of the information about who you are, including these eligibility documents and information on the side there. Additional information, political activity questionnaire. You know, this is the beauty of a government application, is you have to give us all kinds of data. Cannabis questionnaire, fill that out. Diversity, equity, inclusion. Project overview. Okay, so now we're getting into the meat of what your application is. This is where, you know, this is the stuff that we have been talking about over and over again in the info sessions. Where are you located? Where are you located? You've told us where your organization is located already. And now what you're telling us is, where is the project located? Where are you proposing to do this project? And what we need to know is that it's inside one of the 31 eligible municipalities, and that the precise address and location of the project, program, or initiative is in an area of eligibility within 1.5 miles of the rail station. So you're going to prove that to us by downloading, here are directions. You're going to download a printout from our mapping tool so that we have the documentation which, you know, absolutely defines that your project is within the eligible catchment area. If you don't have Adobe Acrobat to download the PDF from the mapping tool, you can follow these instructions. You can give us a printout, you can give it to us in other ways, but what you give us as evidence of the project location needs to be through our mapping tool. It can't be through Google Maps or something. Project overview. Next thing is you're giving us the specifics of your proposal. So you're gonna, you know, write out briefly here. I think this is the one that's 250 words. What is your project? What are you proposing? And you're including bids, any kinds of expenses, what you know, what you can estimate, as much detail here as you can provide us with about what you know at the time of application. None of this information should be new or fresh to you guys if you've been in the info sessions. It's just, this is the formal way that you're going to put it into the application. Again, total sources must equal total uses, right? So your budget or your total, you know, we call it the total, the source and use document. In nonprofit land, that's typically known as a budget, and you're talking about your income and your expenses. What we're looking for here is pretty high level expenses. You don't need to go into the minutia of what your uses or expenses are. And make sure that your total sources or income is equivalent to the total expenses or uses. Again, the grant money that you get has to be completely spent. Project has to be completed by December 31st, 2026. Program site and increase in foot traffic. This is where you are giving us the information about, you know, the document telling us that you have permission to use the site that you are proposing. Do what you can. It may be premature for you to get absolute permission, but get us whatever documentation you can. And we give you specifics here of the kinds of documents that we will accept in terms of the permission that you're able to get to use the site. Look at the applicant checklist in addition, which tells you the kinds of documents you can get us for to prove that. What is your organizational experience? We want to know that you've been in the business of doing whatever it is you propose that whatever it is that you're proposing for this project. Do you have experience doing it? Do you have expertise doing it? Are you going to be able to execute what you are proposing to us successfully? Project impact and engagement. Here is the page for that. These are the questions again, 5A, B, and C, that we have to report back to the federal government, where what you're telling us is the information about how your proposed project is going to stimulate the local economy in the community where you're doing the project. And in fact, it is going to mitigate the negative effects that COVID has had on that particular community. One thing I want to point out on this page, which is true of all of the other pages as well, is I'm going to use my cursor for a second. You can type your answer to these questions directly into this box, or you can decide that you want, that you're writing out your answers in Microsoft Word, and then you're going to upload the document, Microsoft document, with that particular answer right here by uploading or dragging a file to this section. You have that option for every page and every box that you have to fill in. Project impact and engagement, 5C, same thing that you've looked at already in the scoring criteria, same thing we've been talking about in the info sessions. Organizational focus, here's where we want the information, where you're telling us that in fact your organization's primary focus is arts and culture. Again, if it is not, that's okay. If it is, you get 20 points. If it is not, you get 0 points. So you can be a nonprofit applying for this grant that is not primarily focused in arts and culture, but know that you won't get those 20 points. Okay, continuing on, partnerships. This is another question that was, one of the ones that we have incentivized. You get 10 points if you come to this application with a partner, and 0 points if you do not. Any partner, you can come in with more than one partner. We need a letter of intent from each partner that you intend to work with, and each letter of intent needs to include items A through E, as specified here, and each letter needs to be signed by both you, the applicant organization, and the partner. I'm going quickly, folks, because we want to get to the end to make sure that we have time for questions and things. And again, I'm saying, I think that none of this information should be new to any of you. It's just looking really at the specifics of the application and how it is that you'll be addressing everything that we've been talking about for the last 3 months. Work activities. Okay, so this is a part of the application that addresses prevailing wage. What we have done on our end is to work, you all know, if you've been in the info sessions, that lots of questions have come up about prevailing wage. We've been able to address some of them and to get some more specific information, which we will hopefully be posting in some new and additional frequently asked questions. You find that document in the sidebar of the web page. But this is kind of a self-certification page in the application where we are asking you to think about what kind of work activities are you proposing for this project. If you click yes on any of these 4 questions, additional boxes will open up that we will ask you to answer. And I will talk about those in just 1 second. Here's one new note, and one new piece of information we have, which will be happy, and I'm going to listen hard to hear some of you clapping. New information that we have learned over the last few months through our labor compliance folks at the EDA is that if you have volunteers working on a project that do not earn payment, and payment is defined as wages or monetary gifts for their work, they would not be subject to prevailing wage compliance. So a question that has come up numerous times in our info sessions is, I can think of one gentleman in Camden who said, you know, we have this theater, we use a lot of volunteers in our theater to do things like build sets and, you know, help with the lighting and do this, that, and the other. If they are volunteers and they do not earn payment, wages, or monetary gifts, they will not be subjected to prevailing wage. So in that case, it means that you can probably count on the fact that your project would not trigger prevailing wage. Okay, so if you answer yes to any of those 4 questions, a box like this will open up. You will be asked to give us the name of a contractor or subcontractor. And I'm going to go to the next page. I'll go back. Contractor or subcontractor or professional services person or company that you may be working with. Here's what you need to understand. We recognize that you may not know which carpentry company you're going to hire yet to build all of those temporary stages in New Brunswick because you're running a whole street festival for a month. So what you can, if you have the information, give us the information. If you don't have the information, you will be able to advance in the application and continue on. And know that what will happen is if you, if you are being considered for a grant and an award, we will come back to you and say, okay, now's the time. We need the specific contractor information. We need the name of, who it is that you're going to use, who is a certified public works contractor, a company that is going to meet all of the compliance rules around prevailing wage. Matt, do you want to jump in and add anything here to either one of this slide or the following?
Yeah, I mean, so just regarding prevailing wage, just some guidelines, anything where anyone is doing even light, what some people would consider light work, like just screwing in a stage or building out lighting, anything that's above $2,000 triggers, prevailing wage. These items in the application where we have basically 4 questions to help guide applicants and EDA staff to determine if prevailing wage is likely to be triggered here. And then we, if you say yes to any of these questions, then you have the ability to upload documents that are necessary. You won't be prevented from continuing on the application, but it's good to review that documentation because it will be necessary, at the time of grant agreement. So.
Okay. Matt, I'm going to let you handle this one as well, duplication of benefits.
Sure. So this is a federally funded program. With federally funded programs, we have to do, EDA staff has to do a duplication of benefit analysis. And basically we have to ensure that for any eligible expense listed in the application, that there's not more than one source for that expense. So that's the simplest way of putting it. So in the application, you have to certify whether you know of any duplication of funding source for the same expense that would be used on this grant.
Thanks, Matt. And Matt, this one is you as well.
So this is just an acknowledgement regarding the prevailing wage, what we've just discussed, that any construction on the project, will require prevailing wage, and that it has to be a public works contractor as well, which is a list that on the website, there's a list of public works contractors. So.
And those, the information and the link to the public, how to find a public works contractor and some guidance around that is also at the end of this slideshow. It's also at the end of the informational webinar, the informational slideshow, the PowerPoint that's already posted on our website. And Matt, this one is you.
So this is just a legal questionnaire regarding, it's a legal questionnaire that's required to be filled out. You have to fill it out to continue on the application.
The next one.
And, these are just more certifications that the applicant has to fill out. If they're stating that they're an authorized representative for the nonprofit.
Okay. Matt.
So this is also just part of the legal questionnaire. That's this is pretty standard among all EDA applications. You just have to fill it out, and we just review it. If there's any legal issues, or it's sent to our legal staff. So.
Okay. This one.
This is a certification of non-involvement in Russia, Belarus. It's currently required, by Governor Murphy. So.
Okay, and this one.
This is just affirming, just more affirmations and certifications that are standard with the EDA application, basically authorizing and affirming EDA to evaluate the application.
And this one.
This is also the same acknowledgements that regarding the application and also regarding COVID compliance.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And then electronic signature, we're almost at the end. So you've signed off that everything is completed and true and so on. And then you're at the application submission page. Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about this upload button? If there's any additional supporting documentation that you would like to provide, please use the upload button below.
Yeah, if there's any additional information that you didn't think fit in any of the questions, we've kind of crafted this application to meet the eligibility and scoring criteria. But if you think there wasn't a proper place for a piece of information that you think would be helpful in your application, you can upload it here.
Okay, and so then you have an opportunity to go back, if you're worried and you want to sleep on it because you're plenty ahead of that deadline. Save, go back in the next day, review all of your pages, make sure everything is in order before you submit. And once you're ready, you click that submit button. And then you pray to the art gods. Okay, next. Couple of slides here are a review. Again, these are also in the informational webinar PowerPoint that's on our website already, but it'll be in this one, which will be posted. So these are the links. Oh, well, I will fix this slide before we upload it. If you can see my cursor down here is a link. For some reason, I don't know how that happened. I'll adjust the placement. There's a link here that takes you to information about how, guidance around prevailing wage. And then the next slide also takes you to the registered contractor list and additional tips for finding a contractor. And then our final slide in this webinar is this one. If you don't have this information already, here's the A.R.T. Phase 2 webpage. Here's the email that you send questions to. And here is the link to register for that September 19th last call info session that's being hosted by the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. So if you want the full overview, again, come to that one. It'll be the last webinar that we do, covering all of the information. It'll be the last live opportunity for folks to ask lots of specific questions about their projects or things you're considering prior to our tentative launch on the 26th. We have loads of time now for questions, and we can certainly go back in the slideshow if any of the questions are specific to information that we just went over. So I'm going to throw it open to Aubrey, who is our
Awesome.
our grand
Question
poobah
moderator.
questions.
Okay, everyone. So actually, Barb and Matt, can we discuss more about what it means to partner and who is actually an eligible applicant? If we could just go over that again, there's a lot of questions on, can we partner with this individual? Can we partner with that individual? Can we partner with a for-profit entity? So just getting really clear on the eligible applicants as well as the eligible partners.
Okay, so let's go back. Matt, I'm going to just run back to the eligibility slides at the very beginning. Again, this is all the information that we've been talking about. Eligible applicants for this program, you must be a 501c3, C6, or C19. There's one application per EIN permitted. Ineligible applicants for the program are government entities, municipalities, for-profit entities, or any applicant who received an A.R.T. Phase 1 award or grant. So those are the folks who are eligible. To be eligible, your organizational address does not need to be within one of the 31 municipalities. The project that you are proposing, however, does need to be located within one of those 31 eligible municipalities, and the project needs to take place within 1.5 miles of the rail station in that municipality. Lots of detail about this. Part of the program will be covered in that webinar on the 19th and can also be found on the website. To determine if the site or the location where you are proposing to do the project, program, or initiative, to determine its eligibility, you have to use our mapping tool. So you could be based, your organization could be based in Piscataway. That's not one of the eligible municipalities. New Brunswick, however, is. So you could tell us that your organization's in Piscataway and that you want to do a project at 9 Bayard Street in New Brunswick. You go to our mapping tool, you put 9 Bayard Street in, and what you will find is that that address comes up in the pink or eligible area within New Brunswick, and you know you're good to go, that you can go and you can do your street performances, or that happens to be the address of Collab Arts in New Brunswick. You can go to Collab Arts, you can partner with them and you can do the project inside, their space, and you're within an eligible area for this program. What kinds of activities are eligible? The following. Activities or initiatives include, but are not limited to, art exhibitions, performance, festivals, parades, concerts or concert series, film and video screenings, and cultural programming. So it's pretty wide open. We designed this program very specifically to try to meet the needs of the arts and cultural sector. And what we're interested in is having organizations, the applicants, come forward with really amazing, strong projects that that are part of your wheelhouse. You don't have to be a theater organization who goes, oh my God, we want to get this funding, so we need to activate public space and figure out how to do figure out how to execute public sculpture installations in the park down the street. If that ain't your wheelhouse, don't do it. Do what you do more of it, do it bigger, do it better, do it in more places, maybe in your location. Cultural programming, we left very intentionally kind of open-ended so that you can do what you do and do it best. If you're a small organization and need the support, to execute a project that costs $100,000 or $250,000 or $500,000, which is our maximum, then find partners who can help, spread the wealth and spread the work of what you're doing. Bring in partners who have strengths maybe that you don't have, so that you can get out there and you can do what it is you intend to do. And you may be a small organization that doesn't have the administrative infrastructure to implement a project of this size, that this is an opportunity for you to scale up. Go get a partner that has a bigger administrative staff than you do, that maybe has, is willing to work with you and provide the support around that kind of administrative stuff. In addition, the funding can be used to support operational costs for the applicants to execute their project. So that means that you can figure out what percentage of your, the staff that you currently have on board, or what percentage of your physical space is going to be used to make this project happen. And you can build those costs into your budget, or what we call sources and uses. So to that end, the way that we define partnering is you can partner, let me just get back to that slide. You can partner with any kind of entity. We have not put parameters around that. Matt, you want to add anything to that?
No, that's a correct statement, Barb. I mean, I think that says it all.
So here, what you need to think about, and sorry, this is a little bit blurry, but again, you'll find, the same information in the scoring criteria, which is also in the applicant checklist. Things to think about in terms of who you consider partnering with. And again, you can partner with one entity or more than one entity. Your partner could be an individual artist. It could be an artist collective. It could be the local municipality. It could be another nonprofit. It could be a for-profit. What you're considering in forming those partnerships and thinking about is, what benefit is that partner going to bring to the project? What commitment is the partner making to the scope of the project? Are they working on all of it with you from beginning to end, soup to nuts, or are they just going to come in and work on a specific part of it? Both entities, you and your partner, need to agree to the timeline for executing and completing the project. What is the expected final product that you're both agreeing to, and any other personal, material, or financial resources committed to the project that the partner is bringing. I'm going to leave that Aubrey, is there anything else that people have asked around that specifically?
In terms of partnerships, there's some more questions in terms of examples as to how partnerships can be operationalized, as in what would partners do in the scope of work. So if you have more specific questions such as that regarding your application, I would send as much as your scope of work as possible to the Art Phase 2 Art Phase 2 email address. It is in the chat, just so you can get or try to get your specific question answered, since it is a little more specific. But a segue is a good segue is back to the eligible activities. Is it
Well,
possible?
can you just pause right there for 1 second? Because I want to say something here about partnerships. I mean, what we are looking for, and Matt, jump in here, please. What we're looking for are partnerships that are strong and productive. We, not a partner who is simply signing on to say, yeah, we're going to partner, and they're not going to really do anything and roll up their sleeves and engage in a way to really support what's going on here. So if they're a partner simply in name, I think that will reveal itself, as we go through the minutia of an application. I don't think that we can speak to what kinds of activities we expect a partner to do. We don't have those expectations. What we expect is that you're going to lay out for us the scope of your project and the scope of what the partner will be bringing to the table in order to, ensure a successful project that you're able to execute from beginning to end. You want to add anything to that, Matt?
No, Barb, I think you've been pretty thorough.
Okay. Okay, so Aubrey, what was the next?
The next questions are going to surround eligible project activities. Can the project both include like 2 types of medium, like public art pieces as well as performances? And can they be in multiple locations?
Yes. Very simple.
Yeah, well, but all the locations must be within the eligibility zone of a per the mapping tool online. So if it's going to be in more than one location, all locations must be eligible and must be listed in the project scope and in the eligible zone. So.
Right, and so you have to submit to us, if it's multiple locations, you need to give us the map, the printout that we talked about, or some version of a printout from the EDA's mapping tool for each location that you're proposing. So if it's a number of different addresses around, the eligible municipality, let's say Bayonne, give us each of the sites where you're proposing to engage community through your arts-based activity, program, or initiative, and you need to give us a map for each one of those addresses. And yes, it could be a multifaceted thing. It could be, a weekend of film festival and a public installation in a, in a local park or what have you. What we want to see is that the applicant organization has the expertise and the ability to execute this, to do a good job on what you're telling us you want to do. And it may be that your partner is bringing some of that expertise to the table that you don't necessarily have, but then you're going to build a case for that in what you tell us in the project description and throughout the application, as well as in the letter of intent, I think. Throwing it back to you.
Awesome. Just to be clear for everyone, Barbara, can you show the attendees how to use the mapping tool? Just to see where the eligible locations are and where the transit commercial corridors are.
So these questions are sound like they're coming from folks who've not done an info webinar. You know, I apologize. I mean, our intention with this webinar is not to go over these basics again, but so sorry if this is redundant for some folks. So here are the 31 municipalities. Your projects must take place within one of these 31 municipalities. And within those municipalities, you use the mapping tool. So here's the mapping tool. I'm going to try to do this. Let's see if it works. Caitlin, are you on?
Yeah.
All right, so let's see if we can get this to go live. Oh, look at that. All right, so here's our mapping tool. You click on the link. The link for our mapping tool is located in multiple places. It's on the applicant checklist. It's in the application once you get in there. It's under the eligibility tab on our web page. So you can find it lots of places. It's in the slideshow when you open that up from our sidebar. You open the mapping tool. Once it's open, you click on A.R.T. Phase 2 eligible areas, because that's what this program is. You put in the address. And again, I'm just going to use this one because I know it. Bayard Street, New Brunswick, because that's where you want to do the project. You want to hold a film festival at 9 Bayard Street in New Brunswick over a period of 8 months. Okay, so you click on that. It comes up inside the pink area in New Brunswick, so you know that you are eligible. The other information that this gives you, which you need for the application, is it tells you the lot number, which is 9L, L for lot, and or block number 9L, and then 21. What's 21, Matt? That's the it's block and I forget what it's
Lot
called.
and block. Lot and block.
Okay, so it's lot number 9 and block 21.
Yep.
In any case, this is the information that you need for the application. What you can do here is you can zoom out, right? And I'm doing that just by turning the little wheel on my mouse. You can zoom out and you can look at, you know, the full area of eligibility in New Brunswick. If your project, program, or initiative, you know, lands out here outside in the gray area, it's not eligible. If it lands just outside the pink in the gray area, then it's still not eligible. But what we encourage you to do is, you know, figure out an area that is eligible. Get permission to use a different empty lot, or find a different empty storefront space that you're going to be using and you know, renting temporarily for the purposes of this project. We have no flexibility there. So you know, if it's not inside the pink area, then it's not eligible, and we can't flex around that because of the parameters of this program. Okay, let's go back to the slideshow. Oh, how do I? No. Caitlin, how do I get out of this?
Okay, so just minimize the window. Just minimize that window. Go up to the top. Or you can press the X actually, all the way to the top, a little farther.
All the way, yeah. The very top.
Keep going, keep going, keep going. A little bit more, a little bit more.
Oh, I can't see it because it's blocked.
Oh.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Beautiful.
All right, thank you. All right, next question, Aubrey.
Yeah, we do have about 10 minutes left, so I want to make sure we cover these
Yep.
last two topics. The first topic is prevailing wage. We have a lot of questions about prevailing wage, as what occupations fall under what titles and what categories. Can you speak about prevailing wage more and what an applicant should do if their question is not answered here today about prevailing wage?
That is a Matt question.
So, Aubrey, I think there was one I was about to type the answer to regarding actors. As long as the actors aren't doing any type of labor or, labor contract on the site, they shouldn't trigger prevailing wage. If you have very specific questions regarding prevailing wage, because it gets very nuanced, depending on the type of project you're constructing. You can send the project scope that you intend on submitting with your application, and we can try to review it and get you some guidance, because there's multiple. It really depends on the project scope. What I will say is that generally speaking, it's mainly focused on any kind of labor involved in constructing the site. It should be the main focus here. But if you have a very particular project, nuanced project, what I would ask for is the project scope that you are likely to apply with, and then we would try to get you an answer regarding that.
Yeah, I just want to underscore, especially for folks in the arts and cultural sector, that prevailing wage, that the focus is on construction. So it's sort of a no-brainer and a given when you're talking about real estate or building buildings, which is the history of what, how the EDA has done economic stimulus. The fact that this is being, that arts and cultural organizations need to think about this is the tricky thing. It's also, I think, that the tip that we can give you is there some kind of construction that you are planning on doing in the context of your project? Construction, like set building, might be considered construction when it comes to prevailing wage. One thing we know is volunteers, if they're doing the set building, then prevailing wage is not going to get triggered. But again, as Matt said, give us the scope of what you're thinking. If it involves any kind of construction, give us as much detail as you can, and then we can try to get answers for you. One other thing I want to point out about prevailing wage is that if a construction project does not cost more than $1,999, then prevailing wage doesn't get triggered, correct, Matt?
That is correct, Barb.
So if you're building, if you're building some small temporary walls in a gallery, and the materials are going to cost you, $400, and somebody's going to build them for you for $300, you're good to go. Okay. Any next question?
There are some questions, specific questions about if muralists and artists fall under prevailing wage. I see Matt smiling. Is that these questions better sent to the inbox because it's quite nuanced on what the project of what they will be doing?
Yeah, we have some guidance on that. There's actually an FAQ coming out with further guidance that'll be posted to the website. But the guidance right now is if it's on a public building, then it would require prevailing wage and federal compliance. Generally speaking, if it is on a private property owned by a private property, then it would not require prevailing wage. But again, if you all these projects do become nuanced, and if it is more than just painting, then I would suggest sending in the project scope.
One thing I want to add to that is publicly owned buildings, right? Trigger it, but think also publicly owned surfaces. So if folks are planning a mural at a crosswalk in a municipality, that would be considered publicly owned surface. Okay, next question.
The next question is, before flipping to these rapid fire questions, like just yes or no, Does the applicant entity have to be based in New Jersey?
No, just the project location has to be within the eligible area.
Great. Next, how long will the application window be open?
60 calendar days from the time it opens.
Great, and is there, so that would be the deadline, is 60 calendar days. Does it have an opportunity to close before then?
No, we're gonna close it, and just to give it a, we intend on, launching the application, opening it in late September and closing it in late November. That's the anticipation. And do not anticipate on closing it early for any reason.
Great.
One thing I just want to say is, you know, just as a point of review, that, you know, the overall mission or focus of this program is to create economic stimulus in communities that have been negatively impacted by COVID. And so what we expect, and you'll find this in the scoring criteria, is that an organization, you'll find this. I would urge folks, if you're not familiar with, you know, if you haven't been in one of our info sessions and are not already familiar with this information, look closely at question number 5 in scoring criteria. It's a 3-part question. Altogether, the 3 parts carry a total of 35 points. It's our heaviest hitting question in terms of scoring, because these are the set of questions are the ones that attest that are okay. This set of questions are the ones that point directly back to the federal guidelines that we have to adhere to, because the funding for this is coming from the American Recovery Plan. Given that, what we need to know is that the project that you are proposing is going to have a real and substantial impact in the municipality where you are proposing to do the project. So we need to know that we need to know from you, and here it is in question 5A, what kind of impact will your project have within 1 year of completion, and what kind of impact in terms of economic stimulus will it have in that community beyond 1 year of completion? 5B, how are you going to activate underutilized space in that particular community? And we defined underutilized space broadly. What is it that you're going to do to increase foot traffic in a place that has had reduced foot traffic? So look at 5B. And then 5C is how is your project or program going to tie into the larger community vision of that municipality? And we want documentation, you know, that explains this, or you know, demonstrates that your project is in fact tied to how that community sees itself. Okay. So I'm going to leave it at that.
We are at time,
Okay.
my friends. So any last words from our presenters, Matt and Barbara?
If you have more questions, I would just say that if you have more questions, please come to the webinar on the 19th. So that you can, you know, get more of those questions answered as you think about what it is that you're conceptualizing and developing. Anything else, Matt?
One thing I'll just say regarding the application is, just make sure when you're filling out the application, you enter the right email contact address, because that will be the email we send out, as we referred to earlier, the cure letter to, or cure email, if there's deficiencies in the application for the eligibility documents. So that email is key. because there will be 10 days to get back that information. So to EDA staff. So
Great.
Thanks, everyone.
Alright.
And just a heads up, there are some basic questions about the eligibility of the program as well as eligible project activities. If you go to our landing page, NJEDA Art Phase 2, you will be able to watch our previous info sessions that will hopefully answer your specific questions here. Other than that, thank you all so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing those of you who will be joining us on the 19th of September.
Thank you.